All right, guys, Rooster here in Tennessee doing another video here, checking out my other Johnson Ranger. This is the first one I ever owned out of three, and I'll give a brief story of the history of this thing. Uh, Many years ago, I met the coolest ham operator I've ever known, W4CLM. Carol Maher out of Cartersville. She used to run a electronics repair shop. She did well known for her work on Yaesu FT101s. She was the Yaesu queen. Yaesu actually signed off on her being like the go-to for Yaesus, and specifically 101s, I believe. But she got me into the Yaesu 101s. She got me into the Johnsons there. Her and a good friend of mine who went by Banjo got me interested in a lot of this old stuff. And I spent several days at her shop. She would fix stuff for me because I lived pretty good little ways away, not a super long ways, but a lot of times she would fix stuff on the spot, just because I drove so far. And never once said one word bad about a sea beer. She has a good sense of humor. Has, and a hell of a woman there, and somebody I still consider a dear friend, even though I haven't spoken to her for a while. She has stepped away from working on stuff, and I really have just tried not to bother her. When somebody steps away from the radio repair business, the last thing they want to do is talk about radios. So anyway, this thing went down. It's been down for about a year or so, I guess. I went to power it up one day and it just stopped. Now you can see it's in really good shape. Probably the second cleanest one I have. Only really wear on it's over here on the audio knob, so it tells you that that one was probably the one that got used the most. But it stopped powering up, had a short somewhere in the VFO. There's a resistor that's known to go bad in there. It wasn't it. I don't know exactly what was causing it, but it was causing a mass failure in the radio. I sent it to a shop. I won't say the shop's name, down in Georgia. They held on to it for about 6 to 8 months and decided they didn't want to fool with it. I got it back, and I was fortunate enough to develop a friendship with a guy you've probably heard on my live streams on the CB Radio Night Live, Wild Bill, over in Murphy, North Carolina. Exceptionally nice guy that I've been fortunate to develop a friendship with. And we do some wheeling and dealing as well. He's got a passion for these old boat anchors like I do. I love the Johnson transmitters, the Collins, the Yaesu FT101s, all the old vintage stuff. I like it a lot. It's got a lot of character to it. These were made in the 1950s. But anyway, back on track. Developed a friendship with Bill. And he said, man, I'd like to help you get that thing running. I'll take it to my guy, and we'll see if we can get it going for you. So lo and behold, I think he had it less than a month. And it probably was over there that long because it just took so long to go over there and get it. But what he did is remove the crystal knob here, and that comes out to an external VFO. So this little wire that goes in here has got two prongs on it, and it plugs right into the crystal slot, and you run the VFO off of it. So external VFO, this is no longer op, which honestly is the failure point for these Johnson Rangers. So it's not a bad idea at all to do an external version of the VFO. VFO runs off this little power supply that he created, and then it just plugs into the wall from there. So VFO goes into here, plugs into here, and then this plugs into the wall. And that's the way it works. Now this is also a little relay box that the same guy creates, because when you run one of these, you have to run a separate receiver. You can see it says receive and then TX for transmitter over there. Your receiver plugs in here, transmitter there, antenna comes in the other side. What this does is it kills the connection basically to your receiver when you key this thing down, so you don't have to manually mute your receiver. And it's also got it's got connections over here, I should say, excuse me, a terminal strip here. And if you come off those middle two terminals, you can hook to the speaker terminals on the back of a receiver, and it will mute the speaker. So not only does it kills the connection to the receiver, it also kills the speaker, the performance of the speaker, mutes the speaker rather. But here it is. I mean, this is the one that means the most to me. Look, I'll probably end up keeping the other two that I have. I have priced one of them, but I'm gonna keep at least two, and this one's not going anywhere. Means a lot to me. It belonged to Carol, came out of her personal collection, and I have no intentions of selling it. And I wanted one of these for a long, long time, and she hooked me up with this one. Show you the back of it here. You might plug over there, coax connector there, and then here this jack right here goes to the transmit receive relay, the TR switch, that little relay box there. It actually gets its power off of the transmitter. And if you get one of these, I recommend putting a small fan on it. I run a fan on the one that I've got hooked up right now. Yeah, they do generate some pretty steady heat right here in this area, but you know, some ham operators may hate Carol for selling me one of these. You know, I will say this: not all hams are like that, but here recently I've encountered some. And not to get off topic, but my goodness, I had a guy that had two junk Collins transmitters, and I think he wanted $400 for them, and he refused to sell them to me because I wouldn't give him a call sign, and they weren't working anyway. Well, I want to tell you guys something. This old stuff, these 1950s transmitters, you know, late 40s, 50s, early 60s, hams don't care about this crap anymore. I mean, there is a very, very select small group of ham operators that even care anything about this stuff. Because it's AM only, most of them talk on sideband, and AM is like a niche thing for ham. And then even more so, you get into vintage stuff, that's even more of a niche. So to all the hams out there that are hoarding the vintage equipment and refuse to sell it because you're just terrified that a CBeer is going to get a hold of it, grow up. And I may make a video telling you to grow up, because that's what you need to do. Because I'm going to tell you something. CB operators such as myself and Wild Bill are what's keeping these things around. Without us, they'd be sitting in some old estate somewhere, and they'd be rotten. And anyway, that's my soapbox for that. But anyway, we'll flip this thing over to phone. That's where you want to put it. This one's got a push-to-talk relay built into it, so we don't have to switch back and forth every single time. If they went from the factory, you had to do that, and man, you would wear this switch out, and you'll see some that have bad wire around right here. It's because nobody ever put push-to-talk in them. And they actually gave you instructions how to put push-to-talk in the manual here. And why they didn't do it from the factory, who knows? Because, you know, even then they had to know that's going to get annoying. But we'll put it over here in phone. I'll key it up and show you what it does here, and we'll end the video. Just wanted to, I was just so happy to get this thing back. I had to share it, because it's sat here for so long, you know, over a year at least, and just been a dust collector. I mean, I had it covered up, but you know what I'm saying. It was basically a 50, 60 pound paperweight. But anyway, we got a 50 watt slug in here. I'll key up the D104, non-amplified D104. So we've got it tuned out. Now I'll end up dropping the carrier down a little bit because it's backing up on average. That's average power. But I tune them out to 50 watts, and then we can back it down. Hello. I generally like to back it down until it kind of just stands straight up and down, doesn't do a lot of forward or backward swing. Hello. So right there, it's pretty much just up and down. 17 watts. Audio test, 1, 2, 3. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but real good sound coming out of it. Audio test, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Non-amplified D104 on the Johnson Ranger. Audio. So that's it. That's the Ranger. all of mine tune up to about 50 watts or so on a carrier. Now, even though they back up a little bit when you tune them up that high, they're not going to go backwards on the receiving end. They'll just be basically straight up and down because you still got forward swing on peak power. But plate modulated. Some people say the Ranger is screen modulated, whatever you want to call it. AM transmitter. We'll name this one Carol. So this will be good old Carol, named after W4 CLM. And anyway, shout out to Wild Bill for helping me get this thing on the air. Shout out to Hippie for doing the work on it. I appreciate it, guys. And many more vintage rigs to come. Rooster in Tennessee, I hope I didn't bore you to death with this video, but just something I wanted to share with everybody. Like I said, it's not always about getting on here trying to sell something or market something or something like that. Just like to show off different gear sometimes. All right, catch you guys out there. Questions, comments, shoot me a text, 423-299-3535. Rooster in Tennessee. See you, bye.